Okay, we're right to kick off. So, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us here this afternoon. My name is Jonathan Tiefel. I'm a director here at Quantum Advisory, and it's my pleasure to announce we have Adam Barnard with us today from Tactics Coaching. Thanks for joining us, Adam. And thank you all very much for joining. I feel like I say this every webinar, but we've had a record number tune into this one. I think it's a pretty exciting topic. I think a lot of people are keen to get behind it, and they're wanting to see how they can drive more significant results in their business with minimal inputs. So a bit of housekeeping before we get underway. We will be taking questions, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in the question box on Zoom. If you do need to leave early, we may be sharing a recording of this. It depends how sort of raw and brutal it gets as we get into it, and I'm sure you all know where your bathrooms are. However, let me hand over now to Adam. I'd like him to just run through a little bit about tactics and what Adam's experience is. He's got a rather interesting and sort of varied history in a lot of industries. So
yeah, absolutely.
Tell us about it.
And firstly, thanks Jonathan and the team for having us. And we've done a fair bit of work with a few accountants over the years, and it's refreshing to have someone that sort of just cares deeply about what they're doing and the results, and it really echoes the team and Tactics. So thanks for having us, and hopefully we can deliver some good value here today. So for myself, I've been pretty fortunate. I grew up with a family in business, and they did it the traditional way of just working really hard, being good at what they do, being ethical, and just really putting in the effort to financially see a return, which is greater than what you could get out of a job. But I was just saying to Jonathan just earlier, my dad is 73. It was actually his birthday yesterday, and he was struggling to get back on time to have a dinner with the family for his birthday. And so he's 73, and that's his situation. And it's not out of they haven't done well financially, but it purely is because they just never learned how to actually run a business the right way. So that's what I grew up learning and being around. And I'm fortunate throughout my career where I started in concreting into my trade, then moved into project management after I did my uni degree. And I was fortunate to work on a lot of big projects as a project manager, upwards of about 100 million. And it's got really good exposure to that end of building. And that led me into working in a building group where I took the role as general manager. And we actually went from 6 to 30 locations in a short period of a few years. And it was then where I learned the opposite of what my parents said, how they ran their business, where I had to be able to run this business where there was locations in other states and have controls and measures. And it was a huge learning curve of a business can run with the right principles and data and the right systems in front of you. And seeing both ends really opened up my eyes. And that's where the coaching journey really did start. And since then, Tactics is our intent is to utilize data and information to guide what needs to be worked on and take out if you can bring the hard work and you can do what's needed and put the effort and energy, it's just then about what are you putting that energy towards. And if it's a reactive process within your business and you're just working on what's in front of you, then you're sort of going that path of what my parents did. And so for us, it's really just about trying to stop as many people from having to go through that same experience as my folks. And we're really passionate about it, and the team is all on that same page. And so our intent is to really bring that experience and those learnings and help those that we can.
That's awesome, Adam. Thanks for sharing that. And so what's Tactics up to now? So you obviously build a bit of a team based in Wollongong. Best place you could base anything really. So what's next for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So traditionally coaches are sort of at the tail end of their career, and they've got a lot of experience to pass on, which is, really, it is needed. But for us, for me, it's a little hypocritical if I'm a business coach but I'm not applying the same principles to my own team. So we have got a team based here in Wollongong, and it allows us to service our clients in a way where there's multiple coaches, there's marketing experts, we can help with data collection. We have salespeople. So I'm going through and utilizing every tool that I would ever put in front of a client for ourselves. And for me, that's just we have to walk what we preach. And so it's very exciting to have this team, and it's it's something that isn't quite common, but we certainly are. The service is really set up to give the clients more than just a coaching experience where it's a verbal one-on-one. You need other things around you to actually get the growth, and so that's the sort of way we've approached it.
Excellent. And just I guess for the record, just to clarify, it's saying you're based in Wollongong, it's not just Wollongong clients that you're working with. You're someone like us, aren't you? You're working with clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We've got clients in most states, and again, it's a data-driven thing. So other than giving people a hug, we can coach pretty much anyone, anywhere.
Which is technically what we're doing now. Anyway,
absolutely, that's what we do.
Okay, so I guess that's really why we ever built somewhat of a partnership. Is that we like the fact that Tactics was very numbers focused, very data driven. There was not a lot of this fluffy sort of feel good stuff that you do see, unfortunately, in the coaching industry. And we like the fact that the coaching model was completely transparent, was very, very much based on getting real results, measuring those results, refining them. And it just made sense that it sort of partnered very well with what we're delivering as a service. We've now got a few clients that we're working together with, and the results speak for themselves, I guess. So it's a bit of a no-brainer, which is why we feel confident introducing you to our clients and broader network. And we no doubt it's going to be an incredibly valuable session. So let's jump in. Do you think?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm just going to share a couple of things, just very quickly. Okay, so the other day I caught up with Adam. We're sitting down and we're talking about a few clients and a few different businesses and businesses in general and what they've gone through in the last few months, which as much as I hate to use the word unprecedented, because it's been used enough, I think, it's been such an interesting thing to observe how businesses have sort of coped with the whole coronavirus pandemic, and really which ones have strengthened through it, which ones have potentially looked weaker, and what a good business looks like when they're managing a crisis or when they're planning for future growth. And as we sat down and discussed it, we were looking at, okay, well, based on the 2020 financial year, which were the best performing businesses? Now, in the past, we've kind of reflected on that. We've looked at, okay, who had some sort of a silver bullet, or who had some sort of standout marketing strategy or some killer product. This time we kind of looked at it more from the perspective of, if we were to take, say, a benchmark of quality clients, say, take the top 20% in terms of profitability and revenue, what are some of the key consistencies across the board? And essentially we came up with three core ones, and that is that every business that was performing particularly well and outshining their competition had three core elements as part of their management structure. And the first one, I guess, and fundamental to the others, was they had some level of proactive forecasting going on. So, this doesn't need to necessarily be something overly complex, but they had a very accurate idea of what their sales were going to be over the next months, and out to 12 months and beyond. And they were closely measuring how they were tracking against that. So they knew they were winning, if they were losing, if so, by how much. And I guess overlaying that, they also had some sort of a mechanism in place to be producing reporting internally, quality financial reports, and they were having regular meetings to discuss those reports and to jump a bit deeper into them. Now, I'm very conscious of the fact that an accountant banging on about the importance of reporting is going to sound very much like sales pitch, but even if you were to take accountants completely out of the question, the businesses that just did this themselves internally were really came through strong. And I think the reason for that is that it took a lot of guesswork off the table, took out a lot of decisions being made by gut feel, and really focused on what the financial outcome was going to be of decisions they made, and really made them make strategic decisions backed by numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, every business went through a growth point. So if you're turning over 5 mil, at some point you were turning over 1. So if you're taking a huge hit, and there's room for that to not be a huge impact to your sort of net position. However, if you don't give yourself enough time to fix the problem, you're essentially too late when you realize it's there. So if I know that, oh shit, I'm up against it now, then it's too late to know. But if I know in 6 weeks the drop is coming, I've got time to actually do something about it and scale accordingly. And those that had that time because of the system they had could actually minimize the impact. But those that didn't just sort of waited and embraced and just waited for the outcome, which often isn't good.
Yeah, very, very good point. And the data speaks for itself in the sense that even beyond our observations, I was noticing something recently Harvard Business Review did in 2014, I think it was. And they're talking about business owners that just had some very simple reporting, even if it was just reviewing a P&L, system generated P&L, what that did to the likelihood of survival for a business. Because as we know, the startup failure rate is massive. And then they were saying, you know, as a business develops some method for just systematically reviewing reports, that accelerated the potential cause for.
Absolutely.
And sorry, what I was saying, it accelerated in a downward trend any chance of the business folding or failing or becoming insolvent, to the point where statistically, if a business was reviewing this on a monthly basis, there was only a 20% chance of failure, and all that was really doing was just reviewing the financial data.
Yeah. And I think what you said, there's a system to review. So it's not just getting the P&L out and going, how do you go? It's what are you going to look at, ask yourself, and act on when you do the review. So if you just look at the net position and you're happy or you're not, then that's not a review. It's if the data says this, or your fixed costs are a percentage of the sales at which is too high, then an action needs to be taken to actually improve the next month. So it's how they review it and what actions they take based on that review, which is often the missing link. So just looking at the P&L isn't the thing that's going to improve it. It's the system, as you said, to actually then take that data and make a change.
100%. So I guess once businesses have a forecast, they've got a systematic review in place, and they're getting confident making numbers-based decisions on what their strategy looks like, that's when they need help to implement. And the other trend that we saw is they needed some level of accountability or some level of coaching, and whether that's engaging a firm like yourself, Adam, or whether that's working with any other business coach, or whether that's developing some sort of a corporate board structure, even right down to some sort of accountability buddy or some sort of mentorship.
Absolutely.
The people that actually that committed to implementation and then were held accountable definitely shone through.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, accountability doesn't always have to be a coach or a person, and it's just making sure the business, that the results you're achieving is accountable to what it needs to be. So more often than not, a lot of businesses won't actually know if the sales line is or isn't exactly where it needs to be for their target for the next 12 months. And so you need to be accountable to what it needs to be. And then if it's not, have an ability to actually then take some steps from there. So it's not like a mandatory thing to make sure you get through tougher times unscathed.
Yep. And that's excellent. So I guess in summary, these three things we've discussed at length before. So we've discussed with our clients at length the need for forecasting and how to go about doing that. Also around reporting, whether that's something that your accountant does, whether that's something produced internally. We've brought a lot of resources out there about that. So we don't really want to go into this in a lot of detail. What we'd like to spend the next little bit discussing is if you're in a situation where you've got those reports and you've got some sort of an accountability structure, what you can then do to best leverage that. So I guess just a bit of a reminder, if you're in a situation where you're not currently actively forecasting, you don't have some sort of reporting ability.
Absolutely. These guys are cool.
you need to get onto it. Regardless of who you're using, the overarching message here is do something. Don't do nothing.
It's whatever. If you get anything out of this and you sort of aren't clear on those numbers, it's like I always say, trying to make the Olympics and do the 100-meter sprint and thinking 15 seconds is gonna cut it, and that's what you train towards. And then you get there and you got to do 9 seconds. So if you're not even clear on what the number needs to be, you are working hard, but you're likely working hard for the wrong number, which will give you an outcome you're not too happy with. So it's just so critical that you make sure you sort of have clarity of that.
100%. Okay, so with that, we'll move on. And the first thing I want to speak to is if you are in a situation where you've built some quality reporting process and you are working with accurate, clean data, some of the possibilities that are actually out there for you as a business owner to, I guess, take it to that next level. I think a lot of business owners. So for the next little bit, we're going to be speaking purely just to the P&L. Now, you know, we could spend days running through the P&L and then days running through the balance sheet, but we just want to pull out a couple of things just to give the people on the call a few ideas of what some of the things they can be pulling out. So I think when a P&L is placed in front of any business owner, whether it's something internally generated, whether it's sort of some pretty accounting report, essentially they rush to the sales line, see how that compares to some prior period, take a look at GP maybe, and maybe look at a few outlining expenses, then focus on their profit. So what we want to look at today is not necessarily those key numbers, but what's driving those numbers from the back end. And the first one we want to start with is sales. So essentially, every time you make a sale, there's 4 parties that are introducing the profit. First, the actual value of the sale, and then the profitability that's behind that sale. So essentially, you've got your suppliers, you've got your customers, you've got your product, and you've got your internal operations. And beyond that, you can break that down further into segments. So this is going to vary industry to industry, but a common one is obviously looking at customer segmentation, and you've obviously got what industry the customer's in. We've listed them there, what region, where they're located, what size they are, what market they're operating in. And I'm not going to go through and read it all, but obviously you can see there's a lot of ways you can slice and dice your data based on how it's impacting first the initial sale, but then more importantly, the GP behind it. And the one big challenge that we see is if a client's just focusing on the overall GP number, they're not actually getting down to what is a good sale for them versus what's a poor sale. And a lot of poor business activity or a lot of poor sales and marketing activity can be disguised by clients that are propping up the GP or propping up the sales. And we had a really good example of this recently where we had an electrical contracting company and they were making an okay GP, and they really wanted to focus on how they could increase their profitability without necessarily increasing sales. So one of the things they really focused on was this customer segment. And one thing they worked out is they were quoting and they were chasing large, big commercial projects because they thought that's where the money was. And when they actually broke it down and looked at, okay, well, you know, what's our, not just our sales, but what's our GP based on industry, based on region, based on size of the client, based on the market they're in, they soon identified the most profitable projects for them was chasing tier 1 builders or residential builders that were your sort of Clarendons, your Metricons, those guys, and the ones that were delivering first homes and sort of investment property style projects. And when you thought about it, it made a lot of sense because essentially all the home floor plans were the same. A lot of it was Control C, Control V as far as they were concerned. It was even easier from a sales and marketing perspective because they were dealing with somebody in procurement or somebody in project management, not chasing a lot of individual projects. And here they had been spending a lot of time chasing the big commercial projects because the sales ticket was a lot higher. Literally, they realised that if all they had to do was then focus on the more profitable customers for them to get a far healthier GP on the same amount of sales.
Yeah, absolutely. We always will see in business that they've got an idea of what sort of type of work produces what profit. However, to produce more net profit, which is essentially the end game, it's not about just increasing what we're making in our sales. And if you haven't dug right into the cost of goods and how it impacts your GP, and it's just sort of something you sort of know, then there's always, this is how we often see businesses that are making 4 or 5% net make 6 or 7 or 8% just by understanding this with some serious teeth. So it's a cool thing to think you don't actually have to do more work a lot of the time to produce more net profit. And instead of sort of always going to increasing sales, starting with let's make sure we're maximizing the sales we're getting, which will impact our net position quite a lot. And this is a really good breakdown of the things to start looking for.
And a lot of clients will say to us, well, hang on, we cost every invoice, or we run a P&L per project, depending on the nature of the game. Is that enough? And it's a perfect starting point. But essentially what you're looking for then is trends in profit. So if you have a project that's not particularly profitable, or you're selling a range of products that aren't particularly profitable, it's the challenge then is to look at, okay, well, what is actually driving this, and all these factors which I'm describing at the moment could be a thing. Is it the fact that we can't source a product cheap enough? Is it that our internal operations are just completely inefficient at delivering that product? If it's servicing a market that's too far away, is our delivery or lead time killing us? And then it's essentially looking at, okay, where are the similarities in terms of positive outcomes, and where are the similarities in terms of negative outcomes? Because if you look at it and discover, every time that we do a job in Western Australia and we deliver X product and we utilise this part of the team, then you've got a perfect business case there to completely cut that product, and refocus that in something that's got a strike rate that not positive directions.
Absolutely, and look, there is a lot of work in this, and that's often the reason why we just keep doing what's in front of us. And for us, with how we approach most things, is we start with the data, and if we could improve our cost of goods or our GP by 1%, so 20 to 21%, that's actually quite a significant increase to the number. And it's a 5% increase or improvement on what we're actually getting out of the work we're doing. And that often comes not by charging more, but by actually tightening what we're paying for certain products. And if you were to think of 5% improvement to what is a current 20% GP, that's a huge impact on the profit your business is going to make. So we always start with what if we were to make the change and get clear on, is it worth all that energy? And more often than not, when you factor that in against your sales, it's a huge impact, and it's certainly worth the work.
Definitely. There's a few things I'll say here as well. It is a lot of work, but it's time well spent. We see clients that will spend hours, if not days, if not weeks, trying to refine a persona from a marketing perspective, which is great. There's a lot of value in that. But then, why not try and refine your persona from the perspective of who's actually going to pay you the most money, who's going to put the most cash in your bank account at the end of the day?
Makes sense.
And if you can identify them, given your capabilities and your skill sets and your product, then you can start building your persona around that.
Absolutely. Look, what we suggest is always something that could improve the business. Like, that's just never going to change. So always start with, well, what if, and is it worth the effort and energy? And if it is, then it's worth the investigation. And there's two parts as to why that helps, is because if you see the outcome and the reason for putting in the work, it's easier to then stay the course of making the changes because you see the outcome. However, if you just look at it as, I know I'd probably improve what we'd be making out of the business if I looked at this, but you don't know what that would actually mean, you just end up starting and then something comes up and the pathway of your focus changes. So this is where data is just makes so much sense, because it decides what you should be spending your time on, and in this case certainly does.
100%. And there is just one warning I'll throw out there with this. That is, well, two warnings actually. One is that there is definitely a tendency of paralysis by analysis, so people can just get far too detailed with this. But if nothing else, just start with the customer. Start with the customer and say, okay, well, if we can just break down the customer into a few segments, who are our most profitable. Then you can focus on how things are being managed internally. Then you can focus on suppliers, things like that. But just start with the basics, keep it simple. The other warning I'll throw out there as well is sometimes it can be rather confronting which jobs or which projects you're actually going backwards on, and it takes an overall strategic decision to say, okay, is this something we pull the plug on or not? And you've really got to be considering your core brand in that, because, for example, if you're carrying a lot of stock because your brand promise or your place in the market is somewhat dependent on you carrying a lot of stock, and there's not much point in pulling out all your items that aren't particularly profitable. That's obviously got to be a very strategic decision.
Yeah, there's always the analytical, what does it mean in numbers, and then the overall picture of, do we need to do this to have access to the good stuff as well. So, but again, it's got to make sense financially, and then it's got to balance the financial and the overall business as the way to make the decisions.
That's excellent. So moving on from there, I guess one thing we just want to draw attention to is that sales isn't necessarily where it stops, because obviously prior to making the sale, we've got the whole sales and marketing process. On the screen at the moment, we've got a very, very basic sales funnel that everybody would be familiar with. And just the main message we want to reiterate here is that if you've got that level of information and you're very clear as to who profitable clients are and who profitable clients aren't, then it gives you a lot more control heading back up the funnel to look at, okay, what's in here that's a complete waste of time. So take that example that I was talking about before, that electrical company. Even though they were chasing these big contracts, they weren't getting them. As in, they were talking to a lot of tier 1 contractors on a daily basis, and essentially, even though their offering was great, their pricing was good, they weren't winning the projects. And essentially, what they diagnosed themselves when they went back and looked at it is they were being used as a free price check against 12 quotes, and quite often you see that a sales funnel can be full of a lot of garbage that even best case scenario won't translate to a profit. So
yeah, and this is where data is not just financials and numbers and actual dollars. It's data which tells you, not you're guessing, that these are the right type of leads and ways we generate our work based on we've received leads or openings and they've actually converted into work for us. And we often hear, it's just part of the game where you've got to do a lot of the rubbish to get the good, and that's a part of most industries. However, we always see that there is time and money being spent on strategies and ways to generate new work that isn't returning anything. So we ask ourselves, well, if we were to take that energy, resources and money and put it into the thing that the data is telling us is actually working, then that is like a guaranteed way to improve your sales, because you're taking away what's not working and you're putting more towards what is. But we can't assume what those things are. So this is where tracking where the leads are coming from and how much we're spending and what's converting, that needs to guide the decision. And if you've got that in place, then all the guesswork's out of the way. You just look at the data and it's a no-brainer which one you should be putting more energy towards. And again, it's no more work, just smarter with what we're putting our energy towards. And the result is a financial win.
Yep, and to run with that exact line we were speaking about earlier, in the electrical contracting business, they essentially have one admin person full time on preparing tenders and quotes for the large projects they were initially chasing. And however, their actual proposal to close rate was very, very poor. So they could pull her off quoting or preparing proposals and sort of all that admin stuff and get her heavily focused on improving the conversion rate.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is where the numbers kick in. If 1 in 10 leads become a sale and you can produce 20 leads and put those resources to better use, then you're going to get 2 sales instead of 1. It's just the core numbers, and which then in turn is more sales. So you need to be able to make these decisions, but it's easy for us to say, but unless you can pull it in quickly and efficiently, and it's there for you to look at at any time, it's just difficult to make decisions without the emotion in there, and it just becomes a bit of a numbers game, and deeper than just dollars and cents.
No, that's excellent. And so while we're still on top of your GP and while we're still focusing on the P&L, we do want to touch on another topic briefly. That's the concept of contribution margin. And we see a lot of businesses overlook this. Now, if any business is in any other industry other than some direct buy-sell, box-in, box-out industry, this becomes critical. And there's different ways of measuring this. There's different interpretations of it. But essentially all it's doing is separating what your fixed costs are from your variable cost. And what I personally love about this is the answer to the age-old question of, is this a procurement problem or a production problem? Is this something that's a profitability problem, or if it's efficiency? And essentially what it's looking at is saying, okay, well, our fixed costs aren't going to change, they're fixed. And our variable costs are going to go up and down according to what our sales do. And then what we're really saying here is, to achieve, if we want to take this from a GP perspective, we're going, if you want to just look at fixed cost of goods sold and variable cost of goods sold, our GP is going to be what it's going to be. However, how can we best influence that by managing our fixed and variable costs? Now, a typical analysis to do here is say, okay, well, if I measure what my variable costs are against my sales, and my variable costs are too high, then obviously I'm not in a particularly good pricing structure, or arguably not even a good business model. If I'm in a situation where my fixed costs are just too high, I need to start having, enter lean concepts, enter how do I make my internal processes far more efficient.
Yeah.
And I think it's the thing that business owners just overlook a lot is if I've got a problem with GP slippage, okay, it's not so who do I blame, but who do I talk to? Where do I go to address that problem? Is it the fact that we can't buy as strongly as we could?
Yeah.
Is it something to do with on the buying end? Is it something to do with Australia? Is it something to do with dollars? Is it something to do with quantities?
Yeah.
Or is it something is it more a problem with the fixed costs that I need to get under control?
Yeah, look, a good way to ask yourself a question is, if you ever thought to yourself, I was making more money when we were smaller, or things have grown but the net profit hasn't really been exactly on the same scale, or it feels like a lot more work for not a whole lot more return, then that's a true sign that there's a balance issue here. And we were talking prior, and we work with a builder, just new homes, and he turns over about 11 mil last year and made about 500,000 net. And we have another scenario turning over 700 and making 550. So when we've just started with this client, there's a clear imbalance there. So if you're not aware of that, you can often just be aiming at the wrong number. So for this particular business, we either need to go to the next scale in turnover, or we need to pull it back a little bit. But more work and more revenue needs to flow with the right balance, and it's a common one that we see.
Yeah, and we're speaking recently. Pretty cool business actually. They manufacture ice cream, so they look sort of an artisan ice cream place. And this is something that I would have thought would be in front of mine, but it was something that never bothered measuring. However, their GP was particularly weak, and the woman was saying to us, look, we've got a very good production manager. They actually poached him from Arnott's Biscuits, and he's saying, I'm doing everything I can to support him in his role, but I think we're going to have to move him on. We just can't get our GP to where it's meant to be. We said, well, have you ever run this analysis? It's back in the envelope stuff in a way. And when we did, it became very obvious that by the time that she had all these creative ideas around these ice cream she wanted to produce, she was using all Australian fresh produce, everything like that. By the time it actually got to looking at a margin to service the fixed cost, there was nothing left there. Yeah. So it was one of the most efficient manufacturing plants or operations you've ever seen from a fixed cost perspective. But essentially their products and the costs associated with it were ridiculous to produce. So her approach there was, okay, well, we can look at, once again, back to what we were saying before, look at which products are actually profitable to produce. Yeah. Discovered that, and it was a jackpot for her, she discovered that it was about 5 or 6 least profitable products were also her 5 or 6 least popular in terms of sales. So it made perfect sense to axe them.
Absolutely.
And literally throw sort of a good 5-10% back to it.
Yeah.
Back to a gross profit.
Absolutely. And look, the real lessons in all of this is to not let it get to that point. So it's having a system where these issues are flagged before they're an issue, because it's challenging to get out of a problem when you're in it. It's much easier to stop it from even starting if you've got time and the data to help you get through it.
Awesome. So I'm just going to show you another graphical representation of this. Now, this is looking at, I guess, a ground up approach starting at 0. And essentially what we're saying here is that before you've made one sale in any particular period, you've got your fixed costs there to cover. So you finally get to a point where you're essentially breaking even. And then beyond that, obviously your revenue then grows skewed to your total cost line, which is where you start to get efficiency and leverage, which is where things start to get really exciting. Now, for those that are geometrically savvy and the statisticians out there, you'll see that obviously as total fixed costs then increase. So when you get to that point where you start having to add fixed cost again, the total cost gets steeper, and the line between total revenue and total cost starts to narrow again. So I guess this is just to graphically show that it is a balancing game. You've got to have the fixed cost there to support the operation, but you need to be keeping that in check and in balance, so that you've always got a healthy margin between your revenue and your total costs. And effectively managing that and effectively keeping the fixed costs as low as possible and keeping that margin as wide open as you can, not only produces more profitable cash, but also shows any investor or any potential buyer for the business that at a relatively low investment to service fixed costs, you get a lot of profit, a lot of return investment.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess all of these topics are to help you make sure you're aiming towards the right goalpost. And if you sort of look up to the graph where it's at its pinnacle, if you're not aware of that and aiming at that point, then the chances of you getting the right balance is pretty much zero. So you need to be crystal clear on this, and not give or take. You need to be here in sales. It has to be this number, and it's just a core thing that we just commonly see not being accurate. Or we had a target 12 months ago and we just sort of beefed it up a touch because things have changed, and it's just a reactive and not quite as accurate it needs to be. And it's all about the small 1%.
Yep. The other thing that's very obvious, but also deserves to be pointed out as well, is where those lines intersect. As soon as we fall below that is when it is obviously when we're running into big cash flow drama, and we're also starting to go backwards profit wise, which is undoing any positive sales activity we've had above the line.
Absolutely, and it's interesting how often we will see those that are actually going backwards, but because their cash position might be strong, they're not that worried about it. But it's just because their awareness of actually where things are at is not clear enough. And again, the clarity gives you time, and you can avoid ever going backwards.
And it's also this exact thing also avoids point two, where someone can have some incredibly good months, and then a couple of bad months can totally cripple them, because not only the sales not there, they then have to service.
Absolutely, and
running expenses of the business.
On the theme of the topic of what those 20% that are just performing well do, it's not that they do anything different. It's just they do all the right things more consistently. And if you have 9 great months and 3 poor, then that essentially gives you like a 50-50 balance of 6 months that were good and 6 months that were okay when you level it out. And that's where the difference is in between an okay and a great position. And so it's not about what's the silver bullet or the magic trick. It's about what needs to be done, because you're doing it more often than not. But it's just about not letting that slip because of busyness kicks in, and I need to focus on sales because we're slowing, and it's just a reactive scenario. So doing the right stuff you're already doing consistently enough is really where those 20% certainly hold their own.
And what it also demonstrates is that while sales are great, very good and very profitable businesses have bad months too, and they're somewhat unavoidable. But what this is, I guess, showing is that it's not necessarily that the businesses that are out there outperforming others aren't having bad months and aren't having times when sales are dropping, but the process is managed a lot better because they're foreseeing what's going on.
Yeah, certainly.
Okay, awesome. So moving on, we just want to highlight a couple of points. So we're kind of working down the P&L here. Now, as I said, we could spend all day here, but we've got other things to do, and we really just want to highlight some of the opportunities that are there. So I'm going to run through a couple of common expense items we run into, and then after that, really want to get on to how some of your ideas around how people manage the team better. So the first thing we want to look at, and we've briefly discussed this as well, is marketing results and ROI. So obviously marketing's a big expense in any organisation, and there's a common thing out there that what is the ideal marketing expenditure? People say 3% of turnover. Obviously depends wildly on the business or the industry, and then there's also sort of a benchmark of at least measuring your marketing cost as a percentage of your sales, which I guess is a good place to start. Yeah. However, it doesn't give a lot of clarity, and marketing results need to be measured. And the reason I said marketing results and ROI is that if there's no clear ROI from a marketing spend, say it's something like a website, if you can't quantify what that traffic's actually, you can't quantify what business that's actually bringing you, you should be able to at least quantify some result. So some reinvestability or some.
Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of like if you weren't happy with where you're at financially or how the 6 months has been, you'd look at your P&L and look at the data. So if you're marketing, even if it's going well, but if it's not, then same deal. Look at the data, and we often see the mistake of leads are good and we're getting enough, but we're just throwing a a lot of money in a lot of things, and some are going great and some aren't performing well at all. And this is where you don't have to do more, you just have to do the right thing. And if you're doing well out of leads, but there's always something which is costing you money and you're not aware of it, imagine taking that out and putting it back in, as I said before, to the thing that is working, and instantly there's an increase into your sales. It's just a fact. So without that data though, you're always going to be blowing money without really realizing it, and sort of just looking at the end result, which we can't necessarily control.
Yeah, there was a famous quote by an American entrepreneur who once said, he said 50% of my marketing budget is wasted because I just don't know which half, I just don't know which 50%. And I guess essentially what we just encourage every business to do is if, as we were discussing earlier, if they've got some method of tracking sales, not just sales, profitable sales, and then where they're coming from, essentially looking at, okay, well, what marketing expenses is actually returning something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a case of, in using that analogy of the 50%, it's not a case of, okay, well, let's slash marketing by 50% if 50% is not working. It's, okay, well, how can we keep the same or even improve it or even increase it, but keep the expenditure focused on things that are actually generating leads.
Absolutely.
And the leads we want.
Yeah, and it really isn't, a lot of the time it's we hear, they saw us on socials and then maybe came to the website and then gave us a phone call. So how do you know where it actually came from? And what we encourage is just start with even some basic tracking of where they're coming from. And you get deeper and deeper and better at understanding where they are coming from. But without at least a simple system of how many leads we generated, how much we spent, and how many actually became any work for us, you really are just sort of fishing for a result. And that's where it's not a silver bullet, but it's just very analytical. What's the data say? Do more of what's working better, and the result is improved. And it's simple to say, but it's just making sure you got the right system.
And this won't go down, may as well throw the warning out there now, this won't go down well with any marketing agencies or marketing people. They tend to be very creative. They tend to like to think of the marketing budget as a huge restraint when there's so many cool things you can be doing to get your brand more visible. But essentially, if something's not working, stop it. I guess that's the key message.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you only want to be spending money if it's generating leads.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest mistake we do see with the sales and the marketing is when sales aren't good, the reaction is let's just get more sales. And like, sales is an outcome of how many leads and what's our conversion rate. So often we actually fix the wrong problem. So we'll see that leads aren't the problem, but it's actually our ability to convert them has changed. So we could be spending more money on marketing, but we should be fixing how we're converting and how we're actually presenting our proposals and what the offer looks like. And so more often than not, we actually fix the wrong problem, so which costs money and time and a lot more frustration.
Absolutely. It's kind of like trying to turn a hose on faster and it's got a kink in it.
Yeah.
Sort of, they should fix the problem, whereas the foot just could be on the pipe somewhere else.
Absolutely. And that's sort of where you get to the point you go, marketing doesn't work because you're putting more into the wrong thing. So it's any change or any frustration where you're not happy with a part of your business needs to start from, well, let's look at some data. It doesn't have to be complex all the time, but some data needs to be in there.
Absolutely. So we'll move on now to another expense that I'm particularly passionate about because that's often hidden and considered sort of untouchable in a lot of ways for a lot of business owners, but that is the interest expense on the P&L for those that have leveraged assets. So one very good metric to track is what your interest cost is as a percentage of your overall leveraged assets. So as I said, the key here is average. Now, unfortunately, there is no ideal number that should be, mainly because the ability for a business to access capital of any description varies so wildly in the facilities that they may have access to. The interest rate's going to change, but if you at least know what that number is, it gives you the ability to benchmark that. Now, at the moment, with finance being so cheap, it's sort of a lot of financial institutions and a lot of lending agents are doing all they can to retain some of those high margin clients. Yeah. So one thing that is really good is to look at it and say, okay, well, how can we bring this down, even if it's even if it's 1 or 2%? In some clients' cases, we've seen they've been able to drop it 5-10% compared to some of the sort of high interest facilities they've got at the moment. And one of the things that's we would definitely recommend here is that if it's not something you're comfortable going through and negotiating yourself, take those two numbers to a broker and say, this is my financial situation. Take them to your broker and say, look, what can you do? Take my consolidated interest position and how can we reduce this a lot? And then it could get a bit messy. It could involve some refinancing. Then it leads on to two other very important discussions then of, okay, say that my interest spend is 60K, and then, if I've got a lot of high interest facilities, the other thing too is that those that are giving me those facilities may have never got up to date with my current financial position. They may have given me that facility when I wasn't in the great space financially, and therefore they're penalising me at a higher interest rate. And then looking at, okay, well, how much can we bring that down by? And let's say that they can bring that down on, say, 60K interest bill down to, say, 40K would be a great result. And so we're spending 40K on interest. Now, what do we do with that additional 20? And I guess this is the challenge with any cost saving, but particularly when it comes to interest, you've got a couple of options. One is redirect that to pay down capital, so essentially get rid of that debt faster. And if that's just idle debt, if it's sitting on something such as property, or it's money that you owe due to the worst case scenario credit card, but your business loan or subscription like that, that's an ideal option. Otherwise, if that capital is employed in income generating activity, could you reinvest that using one of those facilities? So if you've got 20% spend in a year, would any of those financial institutions be in a position to open the conversation of, okay, how can we use this interest to extend our capital borrowed and sink that into something that's actually going to generate income?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, a good way I sort of look at it for myself and clients is, if this is something that is just sat idle for a while and just running its course, it's probably more likely than not that there's some holes and some money you can save there. And it's, if you're all over it, your broker is pretty well refreshing it and looking at it, then, it's certainly something that you imagine is there. But if it's just sat idle and you haven't done a whole lot to improve it, there's some quick wins there. And again, then you've got some money to make some good decisions with and help improve your position.
Absolutely. Okay, so as said, that's just only two common expense items on the P&L. We could go through them all, but the main trigger that we're wanting this to action inside of everybody is what the possibilities are if you are reporting financially regularly. So if you're sitting down looking at P&L regularly and you take some of these and you're actually actioning them, these are some of the things that you can be reviewing regularly, which will have a massive impact on the bottom line. And with that, I'm just going to share one final thing very, very briefly, which is a tool that some of you may have seen before, but essentially it's just a reminder that there's two levers you can pull in every situation. It's essentially the price and value in business in every P&L line. So one of the things that we encourage clients to do, that if they're struggling to know where to start, or they don't really know how to attack a particular line item, is just think of the P&L broken down into four key areas, which is essentially sales, your direct costs, human resources, now given then they're likely to be above and below the line, and overheads. Now essentially what you want to do is pushing up your price and your volume through sales and marketing efforts. You want to be able to drop your price and direct costs, but increase your volume in conjunction with sales. Human resources, you want to be pushing up the price for yourself as a business, is essentially paying better people more, but reducing your volume, so you're doing more with less. And overheads there, you constantly want to be looking at how can you drop the price, but how can you drop the volume as well? Because at the end of the day, they're overheads. All they're doing is they're just that bit between your GP, your bottom line, and your net profit. So a few ideas there for people to start thinking about is, okay, well, how can we influence the price and the volume on any item on the P&L in a way that's going to be beneficial to the bottom line. And a big reminder here is the only reason you ever spend money in business, or the only reason you ever should spend money in business, is to make more money. And if it's not doing that, then it really needs to be challenged.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll have a very good reason to want to spend that money. And it's a common one. There's a lot of burnt money floating around in a business, and we just let it go because the good or the end result is not too bad, and so there's a lot of little wins there floating around, but you have to have an analytical, regular system to pay attention to it. Otherwise, it just goes by the wayside.
100%. Okay, that's awesome, man. What I'd love you to do now, if you're open to doing this, is I'd like to share some of the tools you've built for your clients, some of the tools your team is, and obviously that's a bit of a showcase to the team of how you actually do this in practice, but more than that, if they want to go and adopt something similar, if they're confident taking something for themselves, what are some of the key things that they need to be measuring on a more regular basis? So I'll stop sharing my screen here.
So essentially for us and Tactics, our intent is that we work with business owners that have the core roots of targets, and they know what their break-evens are, and they've got a pretty solid understanding of where their business is at. And for me, coaching traditionally is a lot of verbal communication. You go and do the work, and then there's an accountability aspect, and there's a lot of value in that. But we start to get to a point when your business is at a level, there's just things that if you don't know it, you don't know it. It's not a lack of effort or willing to learn. It's just, I don't know the solution to sort of getting this thing much tighter. So we've taken the approach to coaching where it's a bit of, it's coaching, but it's also we've got tools and documents that we know that work. And we're not going to sit here and ask you questions and try to get you to a point of learning it, where we can just sort of show what's working and help you sort of use the tools that will make a big impact. So we've created the model where data and analytics are the core reason of how we choose on what needs to be worked on for a business. And we found it to be such an easy way to coach, because if we have a target and we aren't on track for that target, then we know what part of the business to be looking at. So we flagged a few key areas that we must be paying attention to and adapted our system to suit those. And it really sits within the P&L data, our cash flow, so forecasting and seeing when the impact or changes are coming. And then the most important part is the activities and the work that our team are focusing on and doing, which actually produce the end result in our P&L. So P&Ls are just a result of what the team produces in a week-to-week basis. So if we don't have controls over what everyone's producing, it's more, if the environment is more of just a let's work hard and everyone's keen and doing a good job, but we don't control tightly what that is, then often we're just hoping that we're producing what's needed. And that often is, not the best way to do it. So I'll share with you, just kind of share my screen. So the intent around this system is so that we can see problems coming before they actually arise, and we have time to fix them. So a common one there is we have a bad cash flow coming up in 6 weeks. So if that's 6 weeks, then I know the thing that will fix that is more sales. So then we can go into our lead generation and our conversion part of the tool and push on that, because I know in 6 weeks we need to find, say, 10 grand. So if I know I need to find 10 grand and have 6 weeks to do it, I can fix that cash flow gap. If I don't know what's coming, when I get to the point, it's too late. And I go, oh, shit, we had a bad week or a bad month. So it's providing a tool to have time to actually make the change. All right, here over here. So sharing this example, if you look over here where we've got our targets set for this particular case study, and the targets are what we've been talking about at the start here. So it's so often that we see a business set a target, and then they really just see how they go maybe 12 months. It's a little bit like a sports team saying, hey, we want to win the championship, but then not look at any data for how to improve or what's impacting them to win. And it's just a common thing that we see across the board. So if you can see here, the turnover goal and revenue is 6.75 million, then that is 562,000 per month. So up here is our P&L data, and it goes red if it's no good, it goes green if we're on track. So that tells us straight away, are we actually achieving what we set out to aim for? But most importantly, if you can see here in September, I can now see ahead here in this cash flow line that October, November, and December, what those months are actually looking like. And that's based on a cash flow that we've produced to actually forecast claims and income that this business is expecting to receive. So without this data, I can't actually know, not assume, I know what it looks like ahead. And that gives me control and confidence in how to actually prioritize my time. So as you can see here, October's on track, November's behind, but then in December, we've had a really good month as well. So I can say for the next quarter, based on the work we have, we should produce $1.6 million worth of turnover, which if we're aiming for 560 a month, I know we're on track for the next quarter. So to be able to know that, then there's so much comfort and control that comes from it, because I can trust that the business is in the right place. And if it wasn't in the right place, I'd give myself time and also an accurate number for what I need to see improve. And there's just so much power that comes with that, because you're not guessing at how we're going to be going. You're actually fixing and working on the right things. So the next part to it is again, we talked about marketing and sales, and we need to be tracking how many leads and how many sales the business is generating, and how many we need for us to hit our sales targets. So we've set our targets here for the year, which gives us our monthly goal. So as an example, this does change and bend depending on the industry and the business. However, we have a list of where we can generate leads from and where they're actually coming in, and most importantly, which ones are producing sales, which is here. So in this scenario, we've had some marketing strategies that are generating leads, but not actually generating any sales. So in this case, we generated 20 leads from, just slides over here, from our Facebook, but we haven't generated any sales. So that's a typical case in point where if we look at the P&L and we've spent $1,000 on Facebook advertising, but it hasn't produced an actual result, this is where we get caught up in but we're getting momentum and we're getting inquiry. But if that's not producing a sale, then that's a perfect example of where we can retarget that money into something that's actually working. So the intent of this tool is to have a document which we input the correct data, but then it zeroes it in and quickly tells us what's on track and what's not. And the power of that, when you're so busy in the day-to-day running, is just extremely valuable, because you don't have time to have 10 documents opened up at the same time and trying to see which ones are right and which ones are not. And that's the core reason why we often just keep working it and hope the result improves. And it's just really important that that's not how we operate if we want to take the business from a good position where you're doing well, you've got a good reputation, the money's pretty good, but that next step of control really can't be just by working hard. It's got to be through some serious controls through data. Now, the most important part to this document is actually staff outputs. So in this case, it's the KPIs. So what we've got here is the KPIs that each team member needs to be producing. And when I say needs to be, it's not if we don't, we'll see how we go. It's we need to produce 10 sales appointments, because we know that conversion rate is what it's needed to achieve our sales. And what you can see here is which staff members as a percentage are producing the most out of what we need them to be for the business to do well. So the power in that is every single week, my team included, we actually would get an email with how. Sorry. Oh.
Share the screen. Sorry, just right sharing the screen.
Sorry guys, I'll be there. So what this is in a snapshot, it's how the whole team is going as a percentage of their own KPIs. Now, I can't stress how powerful this system is. What do you think it does for a team member when as a whole, you've sort of fallen behind? Instantly, if they're the right person for your team, they will focus on the activities that we've set, because the business needs them, to make sure that their percentage is much better the next time this gets sent out. So we have seen scenarios of everything from a KPI of that their checklist is updated at the end of every day, and business owners screaming at team members to just do it, and they get frustrated. And then they put it in here. If they don't do it, their percentage looks poor and they're letting the team down. but then instantly that makes them do the work. So this gives you the control over what everyone is producing. And it's sort of like this sports team analogy where they finish a game. Their approach isn't, if they lose, let's just try again next week. It's let's open up the data. How did everyone go in their certain roles? And let's improve on that data. So without this, you're reacting to let's just do more, as opposed to let's do more of the right stuff. And if you can keep this level of control over outputs, this is the core part of our system, which will improve the financial position, because we're improving the focus on the things that impact the financial position. So without this, there's just a looseness to what everyone's doing. And it's not that they're lazy or they're not putting in a big effort. It's just your role as the business owner is to be very clear and give everyone on your team clarity over what must happen, and let them focus on those items.
And what I think is so powerful about this as well is that it really stops, I guess, essentially as a business owner, excuse me, a lot of people are taking numbers and owning them. And what it's really doing is empowering staff to think like business owners and have them realize, like, hey, if I can take this number, I need to make this green. I need to make and it's also incredibly fulfilling for the staff to know that, you know, what I'm doing is actually contributing something meaningful.
Absolutely. And even just an analogy from my own team, when we rolled this out, I heard in the hallway one of the coaches say to our BDM, I need 2 more appointments this month because for his KPIs. And if I didn't have that system, I would be the one that would have to then go and say, hey, how are we looking? Is there 2 more appointments coming through? So the team actually, because it all links together, they actually start to talk like you, because their KPIs are keeping them accountable. So this is the first step to actually getting the team to run your business for you, because you're giving them clarity and accountability as a unit of what they need to focus on.
Yeah, I love it because it means that the team knows if they're winning or losing, as in they're actually got that ability to tell themselves. Secondly, that makes management very easy. Excuse me. Because I guess if you're seeing a lot of red coming through with one particular individual, you can have open, honest conversations about the fact that, well, look, your KPIs are trailing, you're bottom of the pile. What's the problem? Do we need to refocus your activities? Is there some problem with the KPIs? Are you unable to fulfill those for some reason?
Yep.
And or is it a performance issue, or is it a cultural fit issue?
Yeah.
And it really kind of puts a hat on the people that need attention. I mean that in a good way, not in a condescending way, but it means that time can, instead of sort of walking into an office and making a lot of noise and saying we need more sales, or we need more of this, or we need more of that, the conversation can become a bit more meaningful and impactful around, okay, well, how can we take you from a 52%er to a sort of a 90+%?
Yeah, absolutely. And everything from performance reviews, the data tells you how that person's going. And even more so though, if you say sales are not too well and your income's taking a hit, it's got to either be we're not producing the right stuff or enough of it, or it's a training issue. So if sales are down and you can't say, but we've also done half of our proposals in the last 4 weeks, and you might actually just fix the wrong problem and start throwing money at marketing. Or your salesperson will say, the leads are just terrible. So if you can see that, hang on a sec, sales are down, however, we've also done half of the proposals in the last 4 weeks. So that's the reason. So let's fix that problem, because that's the reason that it's causing the issue, not marketing or the leads that you're generating. So it's really critical that it just gives you the no fluff, no questioning, what is the thing that is impacting the outcome, and fix that problem, and the result instantly changes because you're fixing the right problem.
That's awesome, Adam. Now, I noticed we're running a little bit tight on time, so we will get back to this for those who can stick around. We'll be answering the questions have been coming through, and there's been some great ones. So looking forward to that. But just prior to doing that, obviously the option, there's sort of no real option here to do nothing. We want to be building the best business we possibly can. So I guess just quick for a couple of seconds, if someone wants assistance doing this, so if someone isn't confident taking this away and building their own system for this, what do you suggest, or how would they be best placed to talk to you?
I guess echoing your comments, the one thing I just really hope everyone walks away with is to not make a change, whether it's with us or yourself or someone else, just make sure you have some form of controls and system, because the outcome is just it's really amazing, and it's great to see happen in your business. For us, we certainly developed this system a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and it's the thing that allows us to know that we can get our results, because it's analytical, and it's why we do have our guarantee as well. So to work with us, really, we just have a sit down and have a chat about the business. We've got to feel comfortable that we know we can help. And again, the data helps us certainly do that. So generally, it's just to reach out, we'll sit down and have a chat, and we'll give you a bit more insights into how it all works.
Yeah, so I've just launched a poll on the screen now, you can possibly see. So we're really keen to know what you're thinking of doing now. And I'd also be keen, if you're sitting in front of your PC, to think about what the impact would be on your business if you were to have that kind of a structure. And feel free to flick us a note. You can send it to us privately in the chat box. We'll just be keen to know. And I guess conversely, if you weren't to action something like that, you know, what would the consequences be? So for the glass half empty people, what's the worst case scenario looking like? And I guess the other thing to consider here, if I can just jump in, I'm not paid to say this, I haven't been yet anyway, but just speaking to Adam and the team for the team of tactics there, we like the way that they kind of put their money where their mouth is. So you don't lock clients in to anything, do you?
No, if we're not doing our job right, then we shouldn't get paid. And you know, if we're doing our job right, then you want to keep working with us. So for that reason, we don't have any lock-ins.
So in a sense, it's really, if you were to be a good fit for a client and you were wanting to work together, it's really 1 month commitment. Also, you're talking up front.
Yeah, and it is that commitment, but we also have a money back guarantee. So if you're you know, if the results and the change that we've made from working together doesn't cover our fee, then I don't think we deserve to get paid. So we give up the money back there in full.
That's excellent. That's excellent. So I guess one other thing that probably is worth mentioning, just because I know it'll affect some people on the call here today, you also are currently working with a government grant type of situation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So the government have released a grant to and it's sort of been a bit of a long time coming and a lot of work in between, but it's a grant to actually assist, and it's up to $20,000, and they'll actually provide that to assist with training and some other professional services. So it is angled towards manufacturing. However, that's a very manufacturing in that you design, supply or create a product. So there's builders, there's suppliers, there's a lot of businesses that do qualify. So it's something that we're glad to be part of, and certainly happy to have a chat about your business to see if it does fit the mold.
Excellent. And I'm going to play devil's advocate a little bit here. I'm going to go totally off script and also say that, not that we had a script, but I'm also going to say that I guess it all comes down to perception of value, but in our experience with seeing how some coaches work, we see tactics as being cost effective. I'm not saying you're cheap, but compared to some of the traditional coaching models that, you know, can push up from sort of 40, 50K plus, you guys definitely hit that sweet spot of effective and affordable. So, and obviously with the guarantees and the low commitment base, it's a little bit of a no-brainer, but no one's asking anybody to commit anything today. If you want Adam or someone from his team to get in contact, the worst case scenario from having that conversation is you'll probably learn a lot. They leave with a lot of value. So jump on board. Otherwise, yeah, if you miss the poll, then yeah, we can have that. Then feel free to reach out to us anytime, and we can move in the right direction. But with that, we will jump into some questions. So there's some really good questions coming through, Adam. First one was actually a housekeeping one, but it just said, will these slides be emailed out after the presentation? So yeah, we can share those. That's no problem at all. Secondly is, if I'm to build a less complex version of Adam's spreadsheet, which KPIs would you start with? So this is a bit of a someone that's wanting to do a bit more of a DIY job.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and hats off to you for doing so. So when I say what KPIs, if we're referring to the team related KPIs, the first thing I would ask is think about each individual person, and if it's just yourself or even one or two people, what outcomes are they responsible for? So if I'm a marketing person, I'm responsible for producing X amount of leads. So my KPIs around that are, well, what are the things that produce leads? So if it's phone calls, if it's mail outs, if it's emails, if it's Google AdWords, I'd be listing the things that produce the outcome and putting KPIs towards that. So mail outs could be that 50 mail outs go out in a month, or that 200 phone calls happen in a month to our database, or 4 emails. So it's starting with the person that you're trying to put KPIs for, and saying, well, what outcomes are they responsible for that the business needs, and then what actions produce that outcome, and working some numbers towards it. And what will happen is it's an ever evolving thing. So you might say, let's do 200 phone calls, and that needs to be ramped up or pulled down. It's an evolving thing. So start with the outcome that they need to produce, and then move towards the activities that produce that outcome.
Excellent. Another one here that's a very good one, and that is, if sales are good, margins are good, and cash flow is good, what value could a coach provide me?
Good question. Well, if you have no gap or bridge that essentially you want to fill, and the business is everything that you could ever want, then to be honest, we've got to be able to add value, and you'd be better off for it. The thing that we often see in a situation where financially it's going well, it's more about how much time and how much does your business operate without you. And that's the point in which you get a business financially in a good position. It's then about how do you go away, not for a week or a month or a shorter period of time, how do you literally disappear and be able to check data and then have a phone call or make a decision to make sure the business stays good. Because if it's financially in a great place, but you're still involved in some way, then if you pull yourself out and don't have the right data and accountability around it, it will suffer at some point because it's losing an element. So pulling yourself away and then letting it be more functional without you is what, in our case as a coach, would be able to provide, because we have the data. If I didn't have those analytics or that tool, I'd say keep doing what you're doing. But for us, that's why we have data, because it's not all about doing more. It's about doing the same thing with less of your time needed.
That's excellent. And I think the other thing too is, I guess, if it's a lifestyle business and it's just providing you with the lifestyle you need, well, then that's great. But I mean, if you found a winning formula, then why not do a whole heap better? And the thing that I often think about with this is there's I've used the analogy a couple of times now where I said, do you know a guy called Glenn Mills? And most people have never heard of him. Mm. And he's a sort of fairly short, overweight Jamaican guy that loves chicken nuggets. They're the things he's most famous for. And then I guess second to that, he's Usain Bolt's coach. And if you saw him, you'd think this guy can't run fast as Usain Bolt. What's Usain Bolt got to learn there? Mm. And you think, well, if the fastest man in the world can benefit from somebody that's constantly measuring him, focusing on those things to improve, then they don't necessarily have to have that silver bullet. But if they can unlock potential that perhaps you haven't seen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's there's an element where if you're so involved in your own business, it's near impossible to emotionally detach, and the data allows you to be less attached to it. But from an outsider's looking in, it's very factual, and there's never been a case where us looking at data without the personal attachment to it hasn't influenced in a positive way the decisions and the actions we take. So business can be strong and good and great, but without a system like what we've shown in the dashboard, I can promise you it will be tighter and better and more consistent, because it's hard to run away from.
Yep, that's good. Another great question that popped in, and that is, okay, so a couple of extra hours a week would be great to focus on some of this stuff. Where do I start?
A couple of hours a week. Well, we start with what time you do have, but every single time we start with, let's get the system in place. A big part of why we created Tactics as a team of coaches is because we understand that you might not have the time to create and put that data in. So our team is actually set up to help that along and do a bit of the doing for you. So from the creating time, you'll be mind blown with, once we get absolutely clear on what everyone needs to produce, you will actually free up time very quickly, because we're producing more of the right stuff, which naturally produces more financials, but it also produces more free time to do the right things, because we're doing the stuff that creates growth and wins, which then in turn allows you to free up time. So if you don't have any time, the first thing we want to do is make sure the time we do have is on the right stuff. And I can promise you, we think we are doing all the right stuff, but there's a lot of things that we aren't. So that's where we start, and then your time starts to free up to allow you to do more. And it's a bit of a rolling curve where it gets bigger and bigger, and your time gets more free.
And if I was to play devil's advocate a little bit again here and say, okay, we'll say someone's in that situation but isn't necessarily minded to work with you guys, no offense, is there any suggestions you have, just where to kick off initially, or at least just to get them into a situation where they can start to have the conversation, okay, could I consider taking on somebody like a coach?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's really just starting with, if you're just doing and working and going forward, and there's just more wins than not, then just start with, well, what are the things that must be produced? And when I say must, if they don't, we will be impacted. So something that's not a must is, let's make the brochure prettier. But something that can't not happen is us doing tender proposals, or us actually presenting our offer at a certain volume. So you'll be amazed with how many will naturally go to the thing they feel comfortable doing, either yourself or the team. And that is allowed to happen because there's nothing keeping it accountable towards it. So just start with, even if it's on a whiteboard or a bit of paper, it doesn't have to be fancy, but what needs to be produced, and just start tracking. And there's a saying, what gets measured gets improved, and it's just absolutely true. If you measure it, you will improve it.
Okay. Another one here, how many is too many KPIs for an employee?
Yeah, good question. There is a fine line. I would say it gets smaller and smaller and tighter, but it's the things that have to happen, and you can't stop taking your eye off the prize. So just because something is happening and it just seems to be not an issue, or it's never dropped, that's not a reason to stop tracking it, because as soon as you do, it will drop. So there's a fine line between too many, but generally in a range of 5 to 10 is where we see it fit pretty well, and they just get tighter and tighter as you go.
That's excellent. Okay, another one here. How regularly should I be reviewing my P&L? This is an excellent question as well, and we would recommend monthly. I don't know what your thoughts are there, Adam, but that said, it can also depend a lot on the business as well, particularly some of those larger construction companies and more project-based businesses where lead time for a project can be longer. Perhaps you're better off focusing on the financial performance at a job level than an overarching holistic P&L, particularly if it's only capturing part of projects, if you're not confident making the correct adjustments for work in progress. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, it is a case by case. What we encourage is the P&L definitely at least once a month. However, look at the cash flow if it's a week to week, or look at that, because that's the thing that produces the P&L. So if you can have a cash flow which shows how we're going to produce the P&L goal in that month, then that's the thing I'd be paying attention to each week, because it's what produces the P&L that we're after. So it's the P&L review generally is once a month, but it's then what we review in between then and the P&L that produces the result, which is often the cash flow and how we keep track of what work's happening.
Yeah. That's good, and that's all our questions. I think we've either successfully confused everybody, or everything's crystal clear. So we'd like to thank everybody for coming along today. Was there any parting words you had, Adam? Any other nuggets of wisdom?
There's not too many of them, unless the dollar makes it for me. But look, to Jonathan, and thank you for having us in the network, and thank you for everyone for giving us a chance. It's we're very passionate about what we do, and if anything, I hope this gave some lessons of, if hard work is the only way you're sort of doing well, and it just feels like that's all, then just try to apply this type of approach, because it allows you just to run the business in a smart way. So thank you for the opportunity.
Working smart, not harder.
That's it. I was going to say it.
You sound a little bit too cliche. Okay, well, thanks everyone for joining us, and we hope to see you again. And we also hope to run a few more of these sessions down the track. No exact time frame for those at the moment, and there's a lot we could be discussing. So we hope you got something out of it. We hope you found something valuable, and by all means, feel free to reach out to Adam. If you need a hand, feel free to reach out to us. And we would just really hope it motivates you to do something, even if it's would definitely recommend getting in touch with Adam. But if that's not for you, then there's no pressure. But definitely do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, we'll see everybody later. Take care, and we'll speak again.
Thanks, guys.